Growing up, was there ever a game that sort of influenced your mindset that kind of shaped the way you looked at the world?
Les Brown says, if you shoot for the moon and you land amongst the stars, at least you got off of Earth.
I have all these attributes that my main character is supposed to have. How do I get there?
Identify, protect, invest.
I love you, Mom. I care for you, but I have to get this off my chest.
The moment I realized I had another parent was when my father died.
Welcome to Life is the Game, hosted by yours truly, Alexandra Nicole Stone. Get ready to uncover the secrets to mastering your destiny, becoming the main character in your life, and embracing a life filled with meaning and joy. Ready? Let's play.
Hello and welcome to Life is the Game. I'm your host, Alexandra Nicole Stone, and I'm super excited to have our guest on today, a really good friend of mine, Rasheed Louis. Rasheed Louis is an award-winning entrepreneur who brings a new level of creativity to every business he touches. As a millennial with growth mindset, he is the founder of multiple businesses: We Are Epiphany, a brand marketing agency; Wonderwall Space, a multi-use space in downtown Pomona for media productions and small events. We're here right now. Level 111, a production house in Palm Desert, California; Syndicate Legal Group, a domestic and international legal staffing firm; and is an executive producer and co-host of the hit TV show The Desert Brew of NBC Palm Springs. As a savvy entrepreneur, he has done business throughout the United States and internationally. Growing up in the urban city of San Bernardino and being raised by a single mother after the tragic passing of his father at the age of 9, he has overcome many obstacles not only within, but also in his environment with the help of mentors and his strong faith. He has been mentored by business greats and royalty. Rasheed has been honored with the American Advertising Federation's Young Achiever Award and has been featured in multiple media outlets and blogs. He most recently has co-authored an Amazon best-selling book on mindset called Think Big. He believes that your purpose never changes, it only evolves, and he continues to push his limits as an entrepreneur and leader. Oh, wow. Thank you so much for joining me, Rasheed.
Well, thank you for having me. And
you have quite the repertoire there.
I tend to forget that a lot. And I actually had a friend of mine that actually forced me to write all of that. Because I was like, yeah, I'm an entrepreneur and I want to get the most out of life. That was my bio.
That's good. I like short and sweet. No, it's good for people to know the details. I feel like I learned so much about you. I didn't even know you published a book.
Yeah.
You're an author, my friend.
I know. It's and more to come. And but I mean, those are just the accolades. We've been having conversations, me and you, for years on deeper stuff,
Yes.
Stuff that actually matters.
Yes.
Yeah.
We've been having mini podcasts for the last at least 5 years.
Exactly. We just never published them.
Yeah. So we finally brought the cameras out.
Exactly. So welcome to Wonderwall Space.
I'm super excited to be here. Thank you for facilitating this amazing experience. And I know you and I know your story, but I'm really excited, number one, to kind of get some more details on certain things and just to share with the audience kind of like your journey. I know you've had a really interesting professional journey, and I think that you're someone who really plays the game of life and looks at life as a game and looks at yourself as like the main character in your life. So I'm super excited to share your story.
Well, I'm going to offer up whatever I got.
Well, like really quick, growing up, was there ever a game that sort of influenced your mindset that kind of shaped the way you looked at the world, even if you never really like thought about it at the time, but maybe growing up, you're like, oh.
I would have to say, a lot of people, I had teachers that try to influence me with like chess or even like checkers or different things. And we all have like the different games that we play. But my game, if you know me well, is Connect Four. It's simple, but the strategy, because it's about position. It's about position, and it's about you playing the other player as well too. And then can you consistently get to where you want to go? So there's a lot of lessons just in Connect Four alone. And so I've had many of challengers, and there's only been a few people that could take me.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you'll totally swindle me.
Yeah, of course.
I feel like that's a game where you only have the advantage if you go first.
A lot of people would think that, but a lot of times I've challenged myself to go after Is of course, house rules, the whole thing. But sometimes when you go after the individual, that's where the game really begins. Because there's that confidence. Well, also it's like, okay, where did they intentionally want to go with this? Like, what's their next move? Are they putting the chip in the middle, to the side, or whatever? I mean, after you play it a couple times, you kind of understand like patterns.
Yeah. I like that because in life, we're kind of second player all the time, if not
Exactly.
third or fourth or fifth. But it's not oftentimes that you're the first person to do something. So you have that second point perspective, right, from the second player.
Absolutely. And you can learn a lot from losing, and I think
It's hard.
it
That's
is
a tough pill to swallow.
It is, but it is. If you can lose the first time, okay, that is great because a lot of times so many people win so many times that they don't know how to take a loss. So there's no bounce back from that. And if you lose the first time, guess what? You're going to win eventually, but now you have more strategy, more perspective. You understand where your shortcomings are at. But if you start off in a winning streak and, always feel as if you know it all, it's a false sense of confidence. Confidence is only redefined and reinforced by the facts of not only your losses, but also your wins as well, too. Because you can lose at a low level and you'll learn a lot when you get to the higher level. Because if I lost today, my loss may not look like a loss to a lot of people because it's like, well, at least you were able to get here. Les Brown says, if you shoot for the moon and you land amongst the stars, at least you got off of Earth, And it's like you're still further than where you were. But at the same time, it comes down to what did you learn along the journey?
And that's really like the entrepreneurial journey in a nutshell, right? Having to fail in the beginning and with each failure, you learn more and more. I'm actually going through that myself because I feel like I'm just someone who like life has worked out for them. I'm sorry, I'm that person. Just stuff always went well for me. Like opportunities always showed up, and now I created my own chaos where like I left corporate. I'm trying to build my own business, and it's been so humbling. And I think not that I wouldn't work hard before, but now it's like a different type of hard work. Like it's like the real hard work where it's like owning your own business and trying to grow your own business. You have 24/7 responsibility.
Yeah.
Stuff is not working out. Everything takes time, and nobody wants to give you money. Like,
oh my! See, that's the cold part about it. Okay, so like as you know, my
or
journey,
the money you deserve, right?
My journey was like flip flopped or whatever, right? It's like, but you do get to a point. Here's lighting in this or whatever. So be aware of this. You get to the point where everybody's trying to give you money. But you gotta look at the terms. Okay. Look at the contract clearly or whatever, right? But with what you've learned too, you learn from winning as well too.
Yeah.
But the lessons you learn from losing just stick harder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. It's kind of like when you're playing a game. I used to not like to dodge a lot. I'm not like someone who likes to dodge a lot in the game, but you get to a point where you're playing against an opponent, a boss, that you're like, I have to learn how to dodge. Because like you die, right? In the first round, you're playing it, and all of a sudden you back up and you're like, okay, I can't just go juggernaut in this thing, or like the strategies I was doing before didn't work, right? Now I have to be a little bit tactical. I have to time the right moment. You're forced to think more intentionally about how you play.
Because the higher you go, your appetite for risk starts to, it doesn't go away. It starts to diminish a little bit because you have more that you're carrying with you. So you can't necessarily do all that you want to do because you've created this pile of facts and victories and people you brought along with you, your destiny helpers, right? There's a quote that goes, the more disciplined you become, the less options you have, but the more right opportunities come your way.
I love that.
And so if you can stay disciplined, of course, the next level is always going to be the next level. There's always going to be something there. There's always going to be something greater. And that's something that I'm learning right now.
Yeah.
It's like I always says, I'm in the journey for more, to a
Yeah.
place called there.
Yeah.
I love options and all this other stuff. But now I'm learning in this season that you can be content but still have an abundance mindset as well too.
I think there's a real skill in recognizing shiny object syndrome. I think that's like the true sign of kind of like growing up and becoming wiser and saying like, okay, I only have so much energy, time, resources, so I have to pick which skills I invest that in, right? What part of my skill tree I invest that in, right? Otherwise, I'm just going to be spending skill points. I'm going to be spending my time and energy on things that are not serving me. Because a lot of things sound good on paper. Oh my God, that's a great idea. We should totally collaborate on that. And then when you take a step back and you ask yourself, like, do I really actually need to do that? I'm like, that sounds great, but that's not my great thing. Like, that's a great idea. But just because it's a great idea doesn't mean that I have to be behind it or I have to spend my time towards it.
Exactly. Because it's going to come down to, do you have the time? Do you have the knowledge? And do you have the capacity? And also, 2 or 3 months from now, how are you going to feel about this opportunity you have now in this space? Because there is such a thing as time blocking for an opportunity space. Like, what if there is an opportunity that needs to happen, but you're already bogged down to obligations that you already have agreed to as well too. So it's a wisdom thing. And it's just understanding, like you said, the shiny syndrome, but also understanding the patterns of your life.
Yeah.
Because we are all operating off of a frequency, and certain things in your life are based off of where you begun. What has been the pattern of your life? Because you can draw confidence from that. You can draw security from that. You can draw understanding from that. That's why I created that quote all those years ago and got it tattooed on my arm, is your purpose never changes, it only evolves. It's, where am I starting at now? What were the things that I'm good at? What are the things that keep being reinforced in my very existence? So that will give you an indicator of your trajectory of where you're going to go. And it's just, okay, what am I doing now? How can I do more of it? And what does that look like the next level? So it's like you're in your lane, but your lane just gets wider, but it's still your lane.
I think there's something about the journey, right? In the beginning, we're all like taught that our journey is like this linear thing. Yeah. We start here then we end there, right? Mm-hmm. But it's all this series of side quests that we go on, and sometimes side quests last a couple weeks, sometimes a couple months, sometimes they're actually lasting a couple years. Yeah. And that's the wisdom, the time that it takes you to realize. What about you, Rasheed? Can you tell us a little bit? I know you've had a lot of side quests in your life. So how did you get to gain your wisdom? Tell us a little bit about your journey.
I've been in business since I was 19 years old. And it's been an interesting journey of, refining my own self-image as it pertains to how I see myself. Because I never sought validation, because when I was younger and, I started a marketing agency and I'm doing all these great things, people would just give me validation, right? They would give me validation, say, oh, you're doing great. Oh, you're a wonder kid. You're a whiz kid. Like, oh, you got this thing. You're working with this person. That's amazing. How do you know this person? How'd you guys connect or whatever, right? And in that process, I got to a point where I was looking out of a window, and I think I was in Texas or whatever, and I'm just like, how did I get here? And I felt this emptiness. I've just felt this emptiness of like, I haven't been paying attention. Like, I've just been doing, even the people that were close to me, they didn't really know who I was. So then I began to just play a part. Everything by osmosis just became transactional, right? It wasn't until mentors or coaches that I was around, they would check me on that. They literally would just see me for me. And it was really those moments of, I see you and I know and feel where you're at, but hey, you need to make this jump. You need to make this course correction. I was just telling Jay in the car, because a lot of times me and Jay are, we're passing business information. He's asking me questions about certain things. And I was telling him a story about a mentor of mine that helped me level up my revenue in my business, when I was in a marketing agency. Because up until that point, I had only charged, I think the most I had ever charged for like a project was about $2,000 or $1,800 at the time, right? And she asked me a question. She was like, "Hey, like, do you have like a $10,000 package?" Right? And I was like, "No, I don't have a package like that." And I said, "I never even thought about it." She said, "Why not?" And I told her, I said, "Well, I just don't know if somebody would ever give me that type of money or da da da." And then so we started deep dive on like, what's your relationship with money? You know, I know where you're coming from and the struggles of where you grew up and this and that, or whatever. But why don't you feel as if you're deserving of more, right? And I went home that day, and for 2 days I worked on this package, $10,000 package, right? When I tell you, it wasn't 3 days later, I get a call from a client. "Hey, we're thinking about moving in another direction. Can you put together a package for us or whatever? These are the points of what we're looking to do." Da 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 da. That whole thing, after it was said and done, it was $12,000. But I would have at that time when they called, if I hadn't of borrowed influence from what she was saying and what she was telling me to do, I wouldn't even been prepared for a call like that. I would have been saying, "Oh, that's over my scope of understanding. Like, I don't know how to do that." But it was stuff like that where it's like, I see you, right? Then another instance was I was in Ghana, and I have a mentor that's a traditional ruler. He's a king in this area of Africa, and I was staying at his compound, and I remember this is taking me back. I remember we were in a meeting, and it was like some tribal people, and then there was like pretty much important people were there. And I spoke out of turn, not knowing protocol and all this other stuff, blah, blah, blah. And I remember him checking me and saying, no, it wasn't him. He checked me afterwards. It was his assistant. She said, "Rasheed, I know you feel as if you need to prove something here, but you don't. You're here to just watch and listen." Even though I knew the answer to the situation. Sometimes it's like, understand where you're at, and it's okay not to speak or contribute in a space. And a lot of time we do that, especially you're young in business and you want to prove that you deserve a seat at the table and that you're the big person or whatever it is. But guess what? It just may not be your time, and your time is only to sit there and absorb what's going on in that space. It goes back to being the second player or the person that makes the move after the first person. It's literally that concept, and it goes back to the 48 laws of power, never outshine the master. It's just like, sit down, watch, and observe what's going on. So afterwards or whatever, he chewed me up and he said, I'll never forget what he said. He said, "Where were you when we were we?"
Ooh.
And it's like, what you know, you learned. What I know, I lived. Different. Like, I get chills just remembering that moment. Because it's like one of those things where it's just sit down and watch. And me and Jay, we talk about this all the time. It is if you're going through life and you're messing up, or you lost, or whatever it is, and you're trying to get back and trying to evolve into this next person or take it up to the next evolution, right? The thing about it is this: you don't need to wave a flag and say, "Look at me, I'm changing. Look at me, I'm evolving. Look at me." No. They knew you for who you were. That's their reality of who you are now, right? You have to start living in your reality of who you are now and who you're becoming for yourself, not for them. Their reality will catch up to your reality, but it is not your job to go chase them to change their perspective of who you are. Because if you do, you're just performing. The change has never actually occurred, you know? And so those are the moments of I see you that have created jumps in my life where people love you enough to say, I'm not impressed by you, but I want to tell you the truth. And so, yeah.
What do you think someone who doesn't have that voice in their life, like what were the steps to kind of, how do you kickstart that in yourself? Or if you don't have someone in your life that's actively doing those things, because that's a gift. And I think I've been able to have confidence, like you said, someone places confidence in you. That's a special thing. Even if it's your mom or something, having someone there that's like constantly cheerleading for you is a superpower. But what if you don't have that?
See, this is where it gets interesting, okay? Because you first have to identify, who do you want to be? You don't even have to embody it yet. Just identify, who do you want to be? Okay? Once you have that, then it comes down to, okay, what's in my environment? Because you have to shape your environment to support the change. You know, what are you cutting off? What are you pouring into yourself? Because so many people, it's like this. We're always talked about, you have to find your purpose. You have to discover what your purpose is, but we never talk about defending your purpose from yourself and from the world as well too. Because the irrational players in this space, they're not concerned about what the other players are doing. They're only concerned about the game.
Yeah.
And they're trying to dictate their rules to get the outcome that they want. But what is the outcome that you want? Because it may not look like how everybody else's rules look. It may not look like how everybody else's play is or whatever. Because you're talking about the greats, right? I was just watching Last Dance. You're talking about generational players. Okay, Michael Jordan, right? He brought a flair and intensity to the game, his whole mentality about the game. You have Kobe Bryant with his discipline and how he approaches the game. Allen Iverson, he was the first real ball handler that changed the whole game of basketball. We talk about like Kyrie Irving and Steph Curry with their handles, but Allen Iverson was the first one to kind of really bring that to the main stage. And so you're talking about, there are people that look at the game. Okay, I'm looking at the game. I respect the game. But now I have to change the game. We do it in reverse, where we walk in and we say we don't know anything about what's going on, and we try to innovate on that space, and we wonder why it's not working. You have to become a student of the game first, and then you try to change the game. So first, identify who you want to be, right? Then go into the environment, because you have to inundate yourself within that to understand what's a threat to my environment and my growth. And then after that, then you start the aspect of the investment. You start pouring into yourself. You start going and having the conversations with people that you know that can level you up. I have mentors that have been mentors for years, but now they'll pick up my phone call when I call, right? But in the beginning, I'm chasing them around. Oh, what are you doing? Oh, can we have a drink? Oh, I don't have time. It's not on my calendar or whatever. I'm out of town. I can't do this, blah, blah, blah. I was in the grocery store chasing a man. He was like, I'm going to the grocery store. I was like, oh, let me roll with you. What we doing? I can push the cart for you or whatever, right? True story. Like, Troy, we were up in Mother's in Newport Beach or whatever. I'm like, oh, yeah, you need some waffles? Yeah, give me some of the vegan waffles. $13 waffles. I was like, whoa. For 6 waffles, $13. But it's that. It's the whole aspect of, are you willing to chase and be uncomfortable and be available to the people that can pour into you but also be available in the spaces you need to be into so you can level up. Because you can be in a class and you can feel like the dumbest person in that class, but you keep showing up. Right now I'm taking a class, and the instructor is like, he's like, okay, he told me this. He said, you're going to be, I'm not going to say exactly what the class is or whatever. What he said, you're going to be great on this because you understand what's going on, but you'll never get out of this if you cannot pass this test. And I was just like, you right. So he's taking an interest to me, and he's like, at first it was like a weird feeling because I'm like, he's calling me up to the board to break down this problem, and I'm like getting cold sweats because I'm like, this is taking me back to like high school, algebra, geometry and stuff like that. It's like killing me. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so nervous right now, right? But I had to switch my mindset. I was just like, no, I'm getting intentional instruction.
Yes.
This is going to stick. So for me, those are the steps that if someone doesn't have that thing, identify, protect, invest.
I love that you say that, and that's something that I really resonate with, where is the identifying part. And there's something really visual to that. And for me, it's like, I like to think of, there's sort of two things. Like, we have the main character. This is like our right now. Like, this is the reality we're living in this moment. And then we have the avatar, right? The avatar is like who I want to become. And I think you have to have a really strong visualization for that. It's like, what do they walk like? What do they talk like? What is their posture like? Who do they hang out with? What is their circle? What are they knowledgeable about? So when you're thinking about this avatar, like something that I've even done is sort of just like written like little status bars, like with those attributes, right? It's like charisma or public speaking or whatever it is for you personally, right? And then you just kind of like fill those in. But then you think, okay, like I have all these attributes that I want, that my main character is supposed to have. How do I get there? And then you sort of start designing your life. And I think that's what you're talking about, right?
Absolutely.
It's like, okay, do you need a mentor to share the knowledge with you? Do you need to go to a class? Do you just need to get on camera and get through the scary, awkward parts more and more often, that you feel more confident talking on camera and more confident in your speech? So it's sort of breaking it down into those, like, what are the attributes of the avatar? And just by you taking action on those things, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
And you become it.
Yeah.
You get your reps in.
And like, you're that person already. Like, that person is in you. The fact that you even got to that point that you're visualizing that person is like, that person exists within you already, right? Now you're just like, how do we enhance this? And it's like almost like every time you build up those attributes, it's like you get to level up. Right?
Absolutely. It's the reps that are reinforcing your belief. But you have to go into it, okay, your greatness is here. Okay, who told you you're great? I told myself I'm great. Why are you great? I'm great because of this fact, this fact, this fact, and this fact.
Yeah.
So when someone comes and they believe that you're a fake or a fraud in these areas, the reality is that you can point to, no, I'm not. I'm this, and this. And these are the facts of my life. I am reinforcing every day to become better from where I was to who I'm becoming. And that can be done, I should put this, you have to literally reinforce that belief. Those are the reps every single day.
Yeah.
Look at it, meditate over it, and and really break it down. Okay, what are the steps I'm taking to get here? But you also have to be realistic with yourself too, because your ambition does not give you entitlement to the result.
No.
Yeah.
That's the newbie mistake.
Yeah.
I have a vision.
Yeah, I have a vision. Is that right? I remember I was talking to this guy. He's an engineer, young guy. He was making I think it was close to 200 right? Still like mid-20s. And we're in LA one night, and he's like, "Oh, I heard you're an entrepreneur, blah, blah, blah." And he's like, I want to be an entrepreneur. It's always been one of my dreams. I'm just like, okay, how long have you been, like, have you started anything? He's like, no, right now I'm currently working in my corporate job, whatever. And I asked him, okay, tell me, so what do you want to do? So now I'm investing, and I'm like, hey, tell me what you want to do. Blah, blah, blah. He tells me his idea, and I'm like, okay, have you done any research towards that? He's like, no. I said, okay, have you talked to other people about this? He's like, no. I was like, okay, so like, what have you invested in this, whatever? He's like, right now, I'm just thinking about how I can quit my job and start this, whatever. I'm thinking to myself, okay, so you haven't even laid the groundwork yet, and you want to transition. And it was like, okay, I told him, let me tell you a secret about me. I started this when I literally have never worked for anybody since I was 17. This is all I've ever done. I wish I would have got a job, and I would have started this at the same time, because I would have alleviated so much pressure and stress and all these other things or whatever, right? And you could work on this on the side, get it launched up, and then transition into it, right? And to this day, guy still shoots me messages, gives me little updates here and there or whatever, very periodically or whatever, but he's just like, I'm starting the process, I'm doing this, because he didn't sit in the gap long enough to think about what needs to be done. And so what I mean by the gap is, okay, you're here, and then there's there, in between there's the gap. He just wanted to make the jump.
I don't blame him.
Yeah.
I feel like that's such a rookie mistake, and I'm doing the rookie thing now where
But you laid foundation. You've been meditating over this for years.
You're right.
So yeah, there's a difference. Okay.
The meditations have been there. I
Yeah.
just finally figured out, like, I was just using this as like a springboard,
Yeah.
right? This situation. I'm like, okay, universe is providing me with an opportunity. I'm just gonna jump. Like,
And but you have to, like I said, the thought process and the actions have to be there to reinforce. The facts is this, that you've been working with entrepreneurs, you've been having a structure, you understood what needs to be done, you started to invest in your next step before you were even transitioned out.
that's true.
So your jump was a warm jump, not straight into a cold of sharks.
That does make me feel better.
Yeah, you have facts reinforced. You're going to be great.
Thank you. I'm gonna switch it up a little bit, but how, like, we're talking about sort of coming to that point where you're realizing you're making intentional decisions in your life. What was that sort of pivotal moment for you where you started to realize that, like, I'm in the driver's seat, I'm in control, I'm the main character, this is my life, and I'm building towards this thing?
So the main character really came into place when I had a conversation with my mother. I feel as if, like, in this world, you're gonna have certain conversations. I always like to call it like the 3 conversations with your parents, right? One is going to be when you decide the person who you want to be. Mm-hmm. The next is going to be the partner that you choose, and the third is going to be how you raise your children, right? The person now, for me, the other 2, the last 2. I'm trying to figure out my shit. Okay, so if I'm being honest with that, the person I want to be. I remember that conversation with my mother, because you cannot have a conversation about who you want to be without talking about where you came from and the whole growing up process as well too. Because a lot of times as adults, especially if you're a young adult, you have certain things that were instilled in you as a child that you have questions about now, that you have a different perspective looking back. And no parent is perfect, but there are conversations and mistakes that need to be talked about, because now as you're an adult, you're starting to trip over those things, those beliefs, those doubts, those insecurities that were sewed into you as a child. And you need to have that outlet in that conversation. So for me, I went to my mother and I had a conversation, and the conversation pretty much started off is, the moment I realized I had another parent was when my father died. And that is a hard conversation to have, because the reality is, like, when you go and have these conversations, they are not about their responses. They are about you and having that conversation. And when I tell you, after that conversation, a part of my capacity that was locked up became unlocked. And now I could move freely through the world in that mode of knowing I'm defining who I am from this moment, not based off of who I was, because who I was sewed into. They had a covering. They had someone that was raising them in some sorts. And so now everything that I do from this moment on is on me.
So you just you confronted those, I don't want to say traumas, but you confronted your baggage, right?
Yeah.
Like, we all have that baggage. It's like generational baggage. It's our parents. And that's really hard. Like, having those conversations and sitting with them and saying all those things that you've been wanting to say
Absolutely.
for a lot of years, and then fearing, I think, you don't want to hurt that person. But what you said is so powerful, where this is about me. I love you, Mom. I care for you, but I have to get this off my chest if I'm going to move forward and become the man that I know that I want to become.
Absolutely. And, what I've been learning now is this. It's like, after you have that conversation, be mindful not to pick up more baggage. Because I'm telling you, like, it is, like I said, I am a walking lesson right now. It is important for you not to pick up another bag from there, because if you define that role, then moving forward, you create a story, another story, right? That is based off of your relationship from that point on. And so you have to be mindful of that, so that you don't have to do an audit again after years in therapy to unpackage part 2.
But sometimes I think we have to fight the same bosses, like, even in different stages of our life. I know in my life, like, I've had to, I think for me, it's been with, like, relationships. Like, everyone has gotten, like, a little bit better than the last.
Yeah.
Now I'm in a great, loving relationship. But in the past, that I was not learning the lesson.
Yeah.
And then I just kept having to fight the same boss. Like, I may have leveled up, but but the situation was different, but the boss was the same.
Yes.
And sometimes you have to go through those several iterations of the same boss. And you just have to keep hitting the wall until you're like, wait, maybe I need to do something different, right?
Absolutely. I think too, because I'm going through this process right now in my relationship space, in my private world, right?
Yeah.
And I'm looking at it from different angles. I have performance coach, therapist, mentors. I have created a environment of accountability, because honestly, like, I'm a little different from the men that just, everybody's running around saying that men don't want to be married, family, kids, or whatever. Like, I want that. Have I made mistakes? Have I screwed some stuff over? Have I created nuclear bombs? Absolutely. I have done all that stuff. But, the point at where I'm at now is that I know who I was, but that's not who I am. And so what does that take to unravel? I got to run backwards now. All right, I got to run backwards, because there are pieces that you dropped that you should have picked up. There's things that you felt were no longer of value that you need to reevaluate, and they need to get a new appraisal.
Yeah.
There are things that need to happen or whatever in order for you to move forward. And a lot of times taking that step back and saying, okay, I need to get back in the lab. I need to focus on this, whatever. These are the things that are going to move me to my ultimate goal of true partnership, family creation as well. And so those are the things that need to be looked at. And I'm taking, like I said, I'm taking a very deep dive, but also I'm taking my time.
Yeah.
And so, like I told you, I am, I am on my journey of, I don't want to say I'm isolated from that aspect of my life right now, where I'm not even entertaining anything.
Yeah.
I'm me, and I'm pushing my capacity.
But when you have that level of self-awareness, you know what I'm saying? The nuclear bombs in your life, when you're a little bit younger, you're just making nuclear bombs and you just go
Yeah.
through it and then more nuclear bombs and you're like, why is this happening to me?
Oh no, I know what happened. Yeah.
But I think there's also this point that you're having right now. And I think like as we mature and as we go on this interpersonal journey, right?
Yeah.
Where we start reflecting like, why are these things happening?
Yeah.
Why do these patterns keep showing up in our lives? Those moments, it's kind of like the first half of our story arch. And like those nuclear bombs are essential to our character development.
Yes.
Because if you go through life without those nuclear bombs, your character's going to be weak. Like you're not
Absolutely.
going to have a lot of
Yeah.
personality. Like you're not going to have a lot of wisdom. You're not going to have a lot of reference. We all kind of need those failures, those traumas, that a little bit of that discomfort to allow for our character to develop. And I think that the first, we're both like really young. I mean, when we were 20. When we were 25, we're like,
Yeah.
we're expired right
Yeah,
now. But,
exactly.
But now I'm like, it's okay. We're pretty young. We're really young on that spectrum, right? But like, this is just like the first
Yeah.
story arch in our character development. And now we're moving into the second phase where it's
Definitely.
like, okay, like I'm no longer like just trying to hit stuff with the stick, trying to get I got my swords, I got all my resources. I'm not struggling for 4 blocks of wood or whatever it is, right? You have everything you need, and now you're really ready to go on that quest.
Absolutely. And it's like I was telling you earlier, like I'm in a therapy session, and the therapist is going through all the deep dive stuff, and she's asking me, what I do in past and all this, what I understand about therapy. And she stops and she says, okay, you're pretty smart. You're pretty aware. You have tools to get through a lot of the things that you're currently going through, and you're ambitious and driven. She's telling me all this, and her question was this: why are you in therapy? Like, why are you here? And for her, I said, I can't see myself. Not on a deep level, not on a truly transparent level. I cannot see myself. And so I want to get to the point where I can see myself, where I can literally like empty out and utilize all of the space that is within me to move forward. And so that's where I'm currently at in that process. But it's also this, and this has been like in like my prayer and like my whole like thought process, and part of the conversations is, how do I balance the light and the dark? Because the dark drives me. I have been on a rip lately of expansion in all areas. Like we're talking about pushing the pain, right? And I'm pushing it to levels that are shocking even myself, right? But it's still that of, I still don't know what's driving me.
I think life is kind of like always going to be like that, though. You're always going to be a balance of light and dark. Your carnal ambitions and your carnal desires, and then your true like altruistic being, your true self, right? The one who's supporting everybody else. So it's a constant balancing act between the two.
Yeah.
And all of that is like, it's all about me and what I want, but there's like 2 components to you, right? And then 2 parts of you. So surfing that out and that question that you're asking yourself is like, what is it that I'm really want? It's going to be a changing question. What you wanted 6 months ago is different than what you want today. What you wanted when you thought you knew what you wanted a year ago, it's different than what you want right now or what you're going to want in 6 months from now.
I guess that goes to the question too, is like, who took permission away from you to feel as if you cannot change your mind? You know, because I think also one of my other processes as well too, like I truly believe that people can change. I do, because I've seen it. I've been there, right? But will the world give you the courtesy and kindness to change?
Do you have to wait for the world to give you the courtesy and kindness to change?
You don't, but it's more of an interpersonal question that dictates a lot of people's actions.
But you just change. You just have to
yeah.
go through that evolution, and the rest
Yep.
will come to the surface. It's kind of like when you grow, when you go through those growing pains in your life and you become a better version of yourself.
Yeah.
Then also that's when the drama starts happening in your life,
yeah.
because there's so many people that you think that were close to you or are supporting you that cannot stand your growth.
Oh no.
And then there's the people that are your cheerleaders that are by your side and they're like, hell yeah. But the thing is, like, that group gets smaller and smaller.
And
like
situational.
The people that you situational. So you can't give yourself permission because haters are gonna hate at its most, at the most raw sort of level.
The same thing where there's people, they're there for you to cheer you on in those victories. When the victory's gone, they're gone, right?
Yep.
Same thing in misery loves company.
Yeah.
When there's pain here, they're there.
Yeah.
But after the pain and you're healed, they're gone. And that is the path, I guess, going back, that's the journey that a lot of people have to find the courage to walk as well.
And now where you are in your life, like at this moment right now, I think it's extremely irrelevant, but like, how are you starting to navigate life like a game? Like, what is the game that you're playing now? And like, what is the strategies that you're putting forward? And how are you moving forward with that intention?
For me, where I'm currently at is I'm living a challenge-based life. I have milestones in every area, whether it's body being balanced in business. And every week, every day, I know what I have to execute on. I'm executing on it every week, and I'm measuring it all out. And I'm being very meticulous on that. I'm not going based off of, okay, what time is it right now? I'm going based off of, okay, what did I say I'm going to do, and do I have the energy to execute it? And so that's my focal point right now, this point in time. And, if I showed you my calendar, it looks savage, and it's already booked up till the end of the year. And so I know exactly what I'm going to do month to month, where I'm going to be at, what I'm going to execute on, what I'm going to obtain, and what I'm going to get out of every single month. And I'm making sure that I'm doing the work to reinforce those facts so that the results cannot escape me. They have to come to me.
Yeah, that's the hard work right there. The extreme intentional life, breaking down your milestones. How can someone do that? What do you think is the best way for someone to really start taking action? I think in the beginning it's so hard because you're not used to that discipline. You're not used to following up on what you say. And how do you build up to that point where you're like every day this becomes a lifestyle?
You have to be brutally honest with yourself. And if you're unable to do that for yourself, go to your friends and ask them, hey, what do you feel as my weak point is? What do you feel as if like I need to work on? This is where I want to go with this. Do you feel as if I have the capacity? Just sit and listen. Because here's the thing too. They may not have the capacity themselves to even understand your vision, but yet they're going to be something that they're going to say that you're going to be like, why did you, and then you're asking questions now, you're unpackaging to understand yourself from another person's point of view. Because I think the hardest part for anyone is to sit and to hear their downfalls. That requires a level of readiness for you wanting to go to the next level. It's easy for people to sit down and, you're going to get praise, you need all this other stuff, whatever. Okay, cool. Let me tell you where you're fucking up. right? And if you don't have a person that like, go get a coach, go seek out mentorship where they have no skin in the game. They're just there to help you grow.
Yeah.
And that's the environmental stuff. And so that honesty, that right there is like the first place. Because I'm telling you right now, when I messed up, I made 3 phone calls. Okay. Coach, pastor, and a therapist. Okay. And then I called friends after that, whatever, to get their perspective. Be like, yeah. But all they want to do is go out and have a drink and, whatever it is. So, but it's those things right there where it's just like, are you willing to put yourself in the pressure cooker so that you can come out of it? Because praise dies, excitement dies, but what sticks is what's your commitment to the cause.
The commitment to the cause is the hardest part. I think that's the 80% that nobody talks about.
Because they don't want
discipline.
to.
And you just build it up, and you build it up over time, and you have to make it. I think what the mistake is for a lot of people is that they're trying to go to level 40 when they're like trying to beat a boss that's level 40 when they're still like level 5, Yep. And so you have to give yourself the grace, because that's what I think a lot of people get discouraged in their entrepreneurial journeys or their like personal journey, because they're setting goals for themselves when you can barely, say you're trying to be a content creator or whatever. Like right now, like it is a struggle for me to just get like 1 podcast out a week, 2 LinkedIn posts. And obviously when I was first starting this, I was like, I'm going to do posts every day. Hell no. Like I'm struggling just to meet 25% of that goal. Right. So like, let me just do 25% really, really well.
Consistently.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing. Because what we're talking about here is there's levels of competition. But the last level of competition, very few get to, because once you get to there, everything levels up for you. So you have the competition of, oh, I'm competing against Kylie Jenner because she became a billionaire at such a young age. Okay, so way out. Then you have the competition of me and you in the same room or whatever, and we're doing a fashion dress off, whatever, right? Which you're killing it, by the way. And then the last level is you versus you. Are you prepared to do self-audits on yourself daily? Are you prepared to hold the buckets of the lies that you've told yourself that you're going to do and you're going to execute, and you have a bucket of broken lies as well too? That's where you level up, because your metrics are against yourself. Did I get better every single day? Or was I only in comparison of, well, shit, Jay didn't do this today or whatever, and I did it, or Jay didn't do it either? Okay, cool. We neck and neck in this or whatever. So your progress is dictated on somebody else comparison.
Yeah.
They're playing a different game than you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you got to win at the game that you want to win at, for the results that you want, for the things that you said that you wanted.
That is the hardest part, and I'm discovering that myself. But I think the more and more you do it, the easier that discomfort becomes. Because in the beginning, you're such a shitty person to yourself. Like you're so unaccountable for yourself that even the idea of like facing that bucket of broken lies just turns your stomach inside out, right? And so
eat it.
that feeling it becomes less and less painful the more you do it. You're like, okay, let's just get it over with. Like,
and then also, let me just add this to this, okay? You gotta give yourself grace. You gotta give yourself grace. I went to one of my coach's house, right? Beautiful home, like I think it was like $15 million home, like beautiful. Walk in and we're talking, blah blah blah. He's like, let's go on walk talks. So we're walking around the neighborhood, blah blah blah. He's like, that person's a millionaire, that person's a millionaire, this person's a millionaire, all this other stuff. He's like, no one here is better than you. They just decided to do things that you decided not to do. This is a indicator for promises that they made to themselves and they kept. And he also said, you're comparing yourself to where you're not at, but you're not giving grace or gratitude to where you've come from. So you have to understand, like, you're top 20 15% in the nation. Like,
Yeah.
you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
It is a game of promises kept
Yes.
in time.
Yes.
Promises kept in time.
That's so important. Someone was just telling me a statistic that people who start a podcast, they don't usually get past the first episode. And I'm not here beating myself up, but I was like, oh, wow, like, I feel really good. Like, that made me feel really good. So I think just like starting something, doing it, even if you're not consistent, it's like you're doing what even like 80% or 90% of people are too terrified to do. Just by getting out there and trying and going through the like, wobbly legs part, right? Like you're like a baby like trying to walk when all you've been doing is crawling,
Embrace it, because you're going to look back and smile at this moment and think to yourself, man, things were simpler back then.
I was doing that just with the kids playing at the playground this summer. I was like, damn, I took summer.
Oh, we all did.
We took summer for granted.
Oh,
It was so
man.
precious. You were just there bored. Like, what do I do?
We thought we knew what stress was.
Oh, yeah. Like,
Yeah.
oh, she doesn't like me or whatever. Oh, my God. Mom won't let me do this with Johnny or whatever.
What do you mean I can't go to the mall with my friends? Well, my mother would be like, do you have mall money? No, we're going to walk around. I never got to go to the mall.
Well, I think that's where your passion for fashion.
Oh, you think that's what it is? Okay, sometimes stroll.
What does living your life like a game mean to you personally?
For me, it's about the challenge. Am I as good as I say I am? And understanding that there's always a next level. There are questions that I have yet to ask myself because I don't even know they exist. Those are the power-ups. Those are the bonuses, right? But understanding, okay, cool. I'm on this journey. I'm on this path. I have these players and resources that are here in my environment, but I need to understand one thing. If I'm the main character and my goal is to reach Mount Olympus or whatever it is, am I willing to go through my 13 talents, my 13 monsters and levels in order to get what I truly want? Or am I only telling a myth to myself about who I am? And at that point, I'm not as good as I say I am. So for me, I have to win the game to prove myself right. So that's the game. I'm just putting points on the board.
I love it. And then the game never ends. Like
Game
you're
never
always
ends.
playing, right? Because you get to Mount Olympus, and then there's another one. You want to get to Jupiter. I don't know. Like those goals just keep changing. Because when you're on the other side of that, you feel so small and insignificant, and you're like, I need to get there. But then you get there, and you're like, okay, I know this now.
Absolutely.
This like what was like insurmountable goal. I'm here now. Okay, I've been there, done that.
And everything slows down for you, and then you start to see what's going on. But everything that you learn on level 1, level 2, 3, 4, 5 helps you on level 10. But you have to be able to. And then sometimes this is where you become a great player, when it's not about just getting through level 1 based off of luck or survival. It's I got through it efficiently, because it wasn't about getting done. It was about how I got it done. And so those are the things that I've picked up. It's just the understanding of like, where are you currently positioned, and are you doing it efficiently?
And how do you have fun during all of that? How do you keep like fun? How do you keep that? The conversation felt so serious that I was like, how do we like maintain like our sense of fun, and how do you keep from becoming like stone-faced throughout that process and overtly serious and learn to enjoy like the fruits of your labor?
Okay. I am true transparency. I am learning that right now. Probably by the time this podcast drops, not probably, for sure. By the time this podcast drops, I would have had my private pilot's license and my motorcycle license.
Love it.
So I am right now in a phase of, let me feed my inner child, but also my adventurous side as well too. And so that, in a combination of other things or whatever, I'm learning Spanish, all this other stuff. So, and other things like I'll be traveling doing some crazy shit. And so we're going to put something together on
I
that.
love it. Not every input needs an output. I think that's like the suffering of the extra productive person that you're like, every single thing that if I read a book, it can't be for pleasure. It has to be for personal knowledge.
I'm that guy.
I'm that girl. So I get it.
Oh my gosh. You're like, I'm that guy.
Yeah.
I am that guy.
When's the last time you read Harry Potter?
Oh, I couldn't even get past the Sorcerer's Stone.
Yeah.
So, so that's me.
Last question. Are there any cheat codes that you want to drop to the audience?
Mentorship is the only cheat code. I mean, you're talking about like you can sit down with someone that is steps or years or just experience-wise that are ahead of you, and they can give you the game, and then you can apply it to where you're at and make those jumps. Like, why wouldn't you do that? Like, I think they did a report years ago about the communication between the top, I think it was the top 20% sales agents in an organization, and how many times that the 80% come and have an actual conversation, ask them about how they do what they do. And it was like less than like 5-10% of them did that. So there was never any progression. The 20% always stayed the 20%, because anything below that, once they got to understand what it takes, they didn't want it. But that's life. It's just like, okay, you want this, guess what? I can show you how to do it, but I can't do it for you.
Yeah.
And it's up to you to truly understand the cost. Are you willing to pay the cost?
And I think that's really important if you don't have a mentor and if you haven't been fortunate enough to just have like those people come into your life. I've been like really lucky for that. But I remember when I was younger and in college, you're like, get a mentor. And you're like, what the fuck is a mentor? You're like, you know, like an executive, a VP. Like when you're in such an early stage, it's so hard for you to even imagine, unless you're on a specific track, like who is that person? But I think it's just like, find someone that has some wisdom that you want.
Absolutely.
Go chat them up, become their friends. Go on LinkedIn. Like I think people think people don't want to talk to you.
Yeah.
People want to talk to you.
Absolutely.
Like if you're like, hey, I like what you're doing. I like, you know, let's chat. Let's have a coffee. Sure. Be tactical about how you spend their time, but like you'll get rejected a couple times. Sometimes you'll think it's a mentorship, but it won't work out that way.
Yeah.
But it's like, get out there, go talk to people.
Yeah, and you cannot. That's the other thing. Going back, you can't be sensitive if they say they don't have time right now. Just follow up. A lot of my best mentors, right? Early on when I would text them, they wouldn't text me back till like a week later, or they would cancel and do all this stuff. Guess what? They're putting points on the board too. You're there to get something from them.
Yeah.
Do not subtract from what they're currently doing.
Yeah. And it's okay. It's like not being, there's a difference between being annoying and following up. And that's something that I had to learn about. Like networking is kind of like dating. You got to like be intentional. You have to put reminders like, oh my gosh, I want to connect with this person.
And you are great at that, by the way.
To have friends. I want to, I know. I'm probably annoying the shit out of Rasheed.
No,
I
you
feel like
are
I'm annoying.
great
I'm
at
like
it.
hunting him down. But I was like, okay, I just want to see them. Like,
No.
I'm like, if he really wants me to fuck off, he'll just say fuck off.
And the thing,
like,
and that's the thing. That's the thing. It's like, I enjoy talking to you. So it's just like when I get the time, we can actually sit and talk or whatever. Like it's amazing. So it's like, no, it's not that. It's just like sometimes I'm putting points on the board too.
Of course.
So it's like, okay, what's going on? Yeah.
you have your own dramas.
Yeah. Oh Lord, yes. Yeah.
Well, Rasheed, thank you so much. I mean, this has been an amazing chat. And I know we can definitely sit here and chat for another 5 hours, but thank you so much for joining me, and thank you for having me at the Wonderwall space. And I'm excited for our next chat.
Definitely. Thank you for having me.